Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts. I'm here today, guys, talking about Ben 10 because my journey through the original Ben 10 show is complete. Of course, Secret of the Omnitrix is also complete. And yes, guys, Ben 10 Race Against Time, the live action film, and the CG film, Ben 10 Destroy All Aliens, those reactions are coming soon. They're dropping November 6th. I'm uploading this November 4th on Friday. November 6th, like a Ben 10 upload on a Sunday, those movie reactions will be there, so don't worry. I'm making this video for two reasons. Number one, my overall thoughts on the show, my love for the show, but mainly, number two, the second reason is answering your questions that you left on my community post. There's going to be timestamps, so don't worry. Anyways, let's dive in. I remember watching the first episode of Ben 10 being blown away by what the show was because I really wasn't sure what was going to happen going in because I had heard about the show, but I wasn't sure. It was kind of like Avatar: Last Airbender. When I had started watching that show years ago on the channel, I had heard about it, but I wasn't sure what to expect, but holy crap was I blown away. It's unlike the Batman, which I'm watching right now on the channel, or when I watched the Spectacular Spider-Man or Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I was familiar with those characters, not those exact iterations from those shows, but I was familiar in a sense, and I was like, I can kind of guess what heroes, obviously the title characters, but certain heroes and villains could pop up, but with like Avatar: Last Airbender and Ben 10, I had no idea. And that's what was ultimately so exciting, because with Ben 10, I had no idea, had no clue. And going through the first season, I think that's what truly changed it for me. Because if season one didn't grab me, if season one didn't really do a lot to establish Ben, Gwen, and Max, and especially Vilgax, which of course he didn't appear in every single episode, but when he did, it was important. And of course, towards the end of the season, holy crap, that's what turned it for me. That's what made me go, this is a great show. And then it just got better and better and better. But ultimately, no matter what, it's about character. Are the characters interesting? Are the characters worth watching? Do I like the characters? Do I want to see what happened to them next? And the answer to all those questions and everything is yes. Because Ben, Gwen, and Max, it's such an interesting dynamic between all three of them. And especially Ben and Gwen, who were at each other's throats all the time. A little excessive at times, but that's what made the show at least interesting, is that you know they care for each other, you know they love each other in a sense in terms of family, but they just get on each other's nerves all the time because they're kids. And I feel like that's what really made it more interesting. If this was just jumping right into, say, Ben as an adult or something, or even Alien Force, I've already seen the first two episodes of Alien Force at this point, where Ben's a teenager and he gets the Omnitrix, then it would be a very different show if that was the starting point. But the fact that he was this kid, he's on the summer trip with his cousin and his weird grandpa, who ultimately you find out why exactly he's weird and everything, because he had a really crazy life, it made it more interesting. Because somebody had asked in the questions about, how do you feel about the premise of the show? And it really is interesting. Because you find out in season 3, Xylene says, Max, you were supposed to get the Omnitrix. And then we could think, I wanted to see that show, you know, but I think it's interesting that Ben, who had no idea about aliens, got it over the guy who had fought aliens pretty much all his life as a plumber. I feel like that was really what made it work. And also on top of that too, is that Ben had his own thing with the Omnitrix. Grandpa Max had his own thing, being a plumber, having all these weapons, a decked out RV, the rust bucket, ultimately not being just a rust bucket, but something so much more, you know, because of him being a plumber. Gwen finding her own thing, you know, Gwen having the ability to use magic. I love it so much, and I love it so much more in Alien Force. I've seen Ben 10 Returns Part 1 and 2 as I'm recording this video. It's phenomenal. I love the fact that she uses magic. It's so unique, and it's so for her. And I like the fact that she has her own thing. Of course, she was helpful before this turning point in Ben 10, but the fact is, it's her own thing. You know, it makes her stand out as her own character. She's not just sidelined with Grandpa Max, even though he's not sidelined in the show. But you know what I'm saying? Ben is the main focus, but I like the fact that they all have their time to shine as individuals and working together as a family and working together as a team, as heroes. It really made the show work. Let's talk about villains, shall we? This show did a fantastic job with their villains, especially Vilgax being the main villain throughout the entirety of the show, and of course Secret of the Omnitrix. I love how they handled the character, because establishing him right at the very beginning of episode 1, season 1, of course, the very first episode, and then of course towards the end of that season revealing that he fought Max in the past and everything. There's so much more going on than just the Omnitrix. So much more with that character. It really worked, and it really made the show like, more serious in a sense, because it was serious at times, but once we got to the Vilgax stuff, yeah, that's when the show went completely crazy in a good way. And I like how they handled it. I mean, literally, I keep saying the character's name, and it only appeared one time, Zombozo the Clown. Such a unique villain to introduce in the show, when literally, I think up to that point, we had fought other aliens. I'm trying to think, maybe there was another one-off type of villain, like Dr. Animo. He wasn't an alien, but Zombozo was such an interesting design, an interesting character, and I like how they just had just this random clown, but there was so much more going on than just being a clown. And speaking of Dr. Animo, a character that could have just appeared once in the second episode of the show and never again, yet he kept popping up. He even popped up in Destroy Aliens at the very end. I'm like, what? I want to see that. But the fact that they had that character who kept coming back with a similar premise in terms of what he's trying to do, but ultimately they kept finding ways to make him interesting. Of course, he was in Secret of the Omnitrix. He was in the opening of that. So like, they kept using this random human villain, but it changed up like the show, because a lot of the times they're fighting just aliens. The fact they had this guy who's really smart in a sense, and he is like, evil and stuff, and he's a villain, but he's not your typical villain from Ben 10. It kind of shows all the different types of villains like the show could handle, and they did it really, really well. And my God, and thinking of Negative 10, even though people say Negative 10, the team up villains, yeah, some of them were not the best, but in terms of they could actually do that and bring back some cool villains that we haven't seen in a while, I think overall I was happy with it. I know it wasn't the best. There's definitely better villains they could have picked for Negative 10, but hey, I had a great time seeing some of those characters return who we haven't seen in seasons. And of course, getting to the end of the series, and of course, Secret of the Omnitrix, it was crazy how far things have come. Literally, Ben with Secret of the Omnitrix had to travel to meet the creator of the Omnitrix, and thinking Gwen died. It was such a powerful moment because we've watched Ben attack and put down his cousin, and she's doing it back to him. So it's a two-way street, And then he starts crying and hugging her and just being like just so happy she's alive. It just comes full circle to know he truly cares for her. She truly cares for him. And the show works because that could have been a really moment. But it really worked because of the buildup over time of them, of course, just being cousins, but then they become so much more during that summer, during the entirety of Ben 10. It's because of how they handled the characters, and that's what's most important. The action was always great, seeing the new aliens, of course, Ben discovering new aliens and everything, and then, of course, the future stuff with Ben 10,000, Ken 10, it was just like, oh my gosh, this, they're doing so much with expanding the lore and what this show is. And then, of course, the Secret of the Omnitrix, when we go to that prison where Azimuth was supposed to be, but of course it was Azimuth's assistant that changed up on the watch or whatever, basically the DNA signature. We get to see all these aliens that have a close resemblance to the ones in the Omnitrix for Ben, but then you see all these other kind of aliens. Like they were building an entire galaxy, and it was phenomenal. And I'm so happy to continue to see what's next, because I can't wait to see what's next, because this was a phenomenal journey. Like, I literally consider Ben 10 to be one of the best shows I've ever seen. Now let's get to some of your questions, because you guys have some pretty good ones. The first question comes from Dupolup. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Apologies for that. But their question is pretty cool. Do you think there's any villain that wasn't used to their full potential, like Kevin being gone after season 2, or Enoch appearing only once in each season? It's a great question. I actually mentioned this villain earlier in my little Ben 10 discussion, Zombozo. I really felt that villain should have appeared more, and it's unfortunate it was one and done. But it was so cool that we got that character, because it was so odd at the time. But when I keep thinking back, I'm like, that would have been a really cool villain to see pop up again, But it really was to introduce Ghost Freak and everything, because I think that was the first time we saw Ghost Freak, or maybe it was another time before that, but it was the first time we really got to see Ghost Freak in the full potential. It might have been the first appearance, but Zombozo is my answer. I mean, there's definitely a couple more, but that's the one I'm going with. Next question is from Emily Jade. If you could write a what-if type episode like Gwen 10 or Goodbye and Good Riddance, what would you like to see explored? Now, I would have said, what if Max got the Omnitrix, which I think is a question pretty much all Ben 10 fans probably thought when they found out Xylene said, Max was supposed to get it, not you, Ben. Ben, you weren't supposed to get the Omnitrix. Max was. But I had to think about it since that's a typical answer. I think my answer would be, what if Gwen didn't destroy the charms of Bezel, or how you pronounce that, from Hex when she destroyed those charms? What if she didn't? What if she kept them? Because, of course, we know later on she gets a Charmcaster, not Charm Master, Charmcaster's book and starts learning spells and everything. But what if she didn't destroy the charms originally? What if? What would happen? Would she be more powerful at this point? Would she go down a dark path? I don't know. But that's something I thought about. You know, that would be interesting. Dr. Doom has a great question. What characters other than Ben did you find most interesting? You're going to love Alien Force and Ultimate Alien even more. I'm loving Alien Force so far, even though I've seen 2 episodes. But anyways, to your question, what character other than Ben did I find most interesting? So I'm going to exclude Max and Gwen because we saw them pretty much every single episode, of course, with Ben in the mix there, of course, Ben 10. I'm going to say Xylene. And I'm saying that because the fact that she's the one who sent the Omnitrix, she was sending it to Max, her and Max have some sort of relationship, and I just want to learn more about that character. And I hate the fact that it was a one and done, because I was kind of hoping maybe in season 4 we'll see her again, because there's a lot they could do with this character, because now it's an alien that's not evil, which there's not that many. There is, of course, a couple of aliens we've met that are not evil, but this is one that has a deeper connection than just popping up and going, oh, you have the Omnitrix? I'm going to help you instead of attack you or take that from you. Like, the whole thing with Max and everything. I want to learn more about Xylene. Eli23 has a little bit of a negative question, but you'll see what I mean. Since a lot of the questions are positive, I'll be devil's advocate. Okay. What was something you straight up didn't like about the series and hope will change moving forward? Well, I had to think about this too, and I think, I don't say I dislike it or something I didn't like. I would say it was something I kind of wish would have been maybe changed, or maybe the timeline of it is simply Ben's parents, or seeing even Gwen's parents, because it was all about, of course, I understand the premise of it in terms of this, it's a summer trip and everything, it's happening over the summer, and I know in Goodbye Good Riddance, the What If episode, you know, they're there, and then Race Against Time, but in terms of the show, I kind of wish it would have been to where maybe the first 2 seasons are in the summer, maybe the 3rd season is back to school, and then maybe after Christmas is season 4. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of like a way we could have incorporated that, and I understand like that changes the whole dynamic of the series. The series would have drastically changed, but I think it would have been interesting maybe where Ben called his parents every once in a while, or maybe we met Gwen's parents or something, like just something to where we're expanding more of the family, because we're literally just focused on these 3 characters, which is fantastic. I love it, but I'm just thinking maybe we could have explored a little bit more in terms of, you know, their lives outside of the summer trip. That's just me. Puffer Slime 72 has a good question here. As Four Arms is your favorite alien so far, and I've said that multiple times, Four Arms is my favorite alien, which alien was your favorite additional one past the original 10? I really loved Ben Wolf myself. So I think my answer, probably Cannonbolt. Really like that character. I like when they first introduced, like, a new alien, oh shit. Ditto is a good one too, but I'm gonna go with Cannonbolt. I really like that character. It's a weird design, but hey, it's a fun character, and I like when he uses Cannonbolt, so I'll stick with that one. LGM20 has a question in regards to the weirdest episode. Now that you've seen all the classic series, yes, what's by far the weirdest episode out of all of them? I don't remember the episode title. You guys probably will know it immediately. It's the Fountain of Youth episode. it's so bizarre, you know, in terms of like the Fountain of Youth, like covering that. Like seeing Max younger, that was fun, but the idea we're dealing with the Fountain of Youth, I don't know what it was. It just felt like, okay. Now, I know as I was thinking about this, some people might say, and maybe a lot of you guys would have said, the Christmas episode, which I guess was mandated and they had to find a way to make that work, because I guess they were asked to do a Christmas episode during summer. The whole premise of the show is during the summer. But I'm going to stick with the Fountain of Youth. I felt that was just strange. It was fun. I didn't dislike it. I'm just saying in terms of weird, Fountain of Youth? Really? Then again, we're dealing with aliens, so why am I drawing straws here? Why am I, splitting hairs? I don't know. It was just kind of random. Chandler Alves, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. Apologies. Has a good question. You're given the Omnitrix with Master Control unlocked as a birthday gift. Kind of like Ken. What's the first thing you do? Well, I think before the first thing I do, I'd be like, oh shit, I got a target on my back now, because everyone's going to be looking for the Omnitrix, it seems, because Vilgax is going to show up at some point. Give me the Omnitrix chainsaw. So I think the first thing I would do, I think it's just because I'm a Flash fan, I would turn to Accelerate. If I have Master Controls, I can just do whatever I want. Turn to Accelerate to truly see how fast he can go. Because at times it seems Accelerate can run really fast, and other times it's still fast, but I'm wondering how fast can Accelerate really actually go. And maybe there's something like somewhere on a wiki or something on Wikipedia, they have the actual numbers. I would like to test it myself, though. That's the first thing I'd probably do. Azrael has a question. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. Apologies. I probably butcher it, and I don't want to do that. I know I probably have already done that. How powerful do you think Ben is, like compared to heroes/villains from Marvel and DC, like Superman, Spider-Man, Flash, Iron Man? How powerful is Ben? So, someone had responded to him saying, well, he hasn't seen the entirety of all the shows, so it's kind of hard to answer. So, I can only go off of the original Ben 10 series. I could say Alien Force as well, but I haven't seen too much of that, so I won't throw that in the first two episodes. I think Ben's pretty strong because unlike the other heroes or villains from DC or Marvel, like, they really have a certain trait of things they can do. He can turn into a variety of aliens. Now, obviously, we're not saying Master Control is an option, but if he did, yeah, a lot of them would be in some serious trouble. But the fact is, he could turn into gray matter, jump inside Iron Man's suit, and destroy it within. He could turn into Heat Blast, destroy Poison Ivy. He could turn into a variety of aliens to take on Spider-Man. I don't know about Superman. I don't know what villain alien he could turn into to fight Superman, but you know, I feel like he would do pretty well against the majority of DC and Marvel, depending on if he truly gets the alien he wants against them. The last question I'm going to answer, and thank you guys so much for posting your questions. I wish I could get to all of them, but I don't want to make this video extremely long, but at some point I might do like a live stream or whatever to actually talk more in depth about Ben 10 with all you guys. So I'll let you guys know ahead of time when I'm planning on doing something like that down the road in terms of a Ben 10 live stream. But the last question is from Cool Leopard 50, and I actually had to write this down. Pick 10 aliens Ben's turned into that you like in your Omnitrix. That includes Artiguana, Buzzshock, and Spitter from Ben 10,000. So there's the ones from Ben 10,000. But I actually wrote down my list of this. I know someone else asked this as well. Maybe two more people actually asked this, but this is the first one I saw. So I picked 10 aliens from the original Ben 10 series. I didn't include any from Ben 10 Returns Part 1 and 2 from Alien Force. I didn't include any of those because those reactions are not out yet. So I picked 10 aliens. So I'm going from the very top, which is the ones I essentially wanted right away, and then I have a surprise at the end, I think, for some of you guys. So number 1 is Forearms. Need that character. Heat Blast. Need that alien character. Alien. Anyways. So Forearms and Heat Blast. Accelerate. Have to have Accelerate. Gray Matter. It's obvious. Upgrade. Ditto. Way Big. In case Godzilla shows up. Need Way Big. Cannon Bolt. Eye Guy. I feel like the character, you know, he's barely appeared at this point. I hope he appears again. Of course, he was in that alternate opening for Secret of the Omnitrix, of course, and randomly out of nowhere in -10 Part 2. But that's 9. So Forearms, Heat Blast, Accelerate, Gray Matter, Upgrade, Ditto, Way Big, Cannonbolt, Eye Guy. And my last one, I don't know if this is the actual name, but I saw it on a Ben 10 wiki as I typed in original Aliens Ben 10 series. I didn't want to look for any of the other ones. Blitzwolfer. The wolf one, which someone had called Ben Wolf earlier. I guess that's another name for it. But the wolf, why not? I'd like to turn into a wolf. Why not? Thank you guys so much for your questions. Thank you guys so much for watching the Ben 10 videos. It has been an incredible journey. Click that off. And yeah, you know, the movies are coming out. The reactions are filmed. I just got to edit them and everything. I was actually editing on Race Against Time earlier as I'm recording this. And yeah, I can't wait to dive in more into Alien Force and everything. And who knows, maybe Ultimate Alien is gonna happen. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm loving Ben 10, so definitely looking like it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching Ben 10. Thank you guys so much for watching the videos and supporting the journey. It really has been a great experience so far, and I can't wait to continue with you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Talk to you guys soon. Peace out.